Why don't more teams teach hitters to hit for average and get on base instead of swinging for the fences? I've got a couple theories, plus playoff chaos and your trade ideas from Wednesday's episode. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Pirates, your daily Pittsburgh Pirates podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On Pirates, your daily podcast for all things Pittsburgh Pirates. I'm your host, Gary Morgan, and today we're diving into a theory about modern hitting philosophy, checking in on the MLB playoffs, and reading your trade target suggestions from Wednesday's episode on arbitration estimates. Let's go. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Download the app today. So let's talk about something that's been bugging me for a while, and it's really the way hitters are developed in today's game. Why don't more teams focus on developing hitters who can hit for average and get on base? Why is it all launch angle, exit velocity, and swing hard in case you hit it? I mean, it starts early. Players are taught this approach in high school and travel ball and college. And by the time they reach pro ball, I mean, it's fully ingrained. Guys, even in the Dominican, when they're 13, 14, they're trying to hit home runs. They're trying to show they've got some pop. They want that contract. They want signed. And home runs get you signed. Hitting singles as a 14-year-old doesn't get you signed. You know, having wide shoulders and looking projectable and being able to show some pop even at a young age is what gets you attention. It's about money. A guy who hits 25 to 30 home runs gets paid. A guy who hits 280, if there were more than like maybe 5 or 6 of even those, with a 360 on base percentage and 10 home runs, not so much. The lure of individual success outweighs the idea of team first hitting. Giants legend Will Clark recently criticized this approach, and I can't say it as colorfully as he did, and I certainly can't repeat exactly what he said on this show either. But what he sees is guys are swinging up, dropping their shoulders, and they end up with more strikeouts and pop-ups. He wants hitters to stay in the plane of the ball and hit strikes. I agree. And it's specifically for some players like Henry Davis and whatnot. Chasing launch angle has completely destroyed him as a hitter. You got to get on plane. The truth is, players and coaches have built this version of baseball together. And, the drama is still there. It's baseball. But the offense is terrible because they've coached it into existence. And greed keeps it going. But here's the thing. If you're a team like the Pirates, you can't afford to play like you've got a lineup full of 30 homer guys. You don't. So stop pretending you do. And you're not paying anybody to have the kind of egos that would give them the ability to tell you how it's going to be. You know what I mean? Instead, lean into what you can be. Build a lineup that passes the baton. Embrace situational hitting. Teach guys to shorten up with 2 strikes. You're not going to undo years of launch angle obsession overnight. But you can ask hitters to focus on contact when the situation calls for it. A runner on third with less than 2 outs. A man on second in a tie game, or just keeping the line moving. Avoiding a double play. I mean, here's the kicker. Play the guys who are willing to buy into that approach. If you want to manage a team that plays unselfish baseball, you need players who are willing to play unselfish baseball. And you need to reward players who play unselfish baseball with playing time. What the best case scenario is that your guys with the most talent and skill and ability are the guys who kind of lead the charge and earn their playing time the most by being exactly what you're hoping the example is that you're setting. Until players and coaches start valuing contact, on base skills, and situational hitting, and until teams like the Pirates stop trying to pretend there's something they're not, we're going to keep watching this version of the game. Like, some of you probably grew up in this and don't even know that the game can look different. I mean to tell you, if you're under like the age of maybe 35, there's a solid chance you don't really know that baseball can look much different than this. It used to be, it's not like every night offenses went insane. Pitchers still did what pitchers do. But this one thing that I'm talking about, just changing the way that we're approaching at bats again, getting back to valuing putting wood on ball, balls in play, strikeouts getting back to being a bad thing. If all of these things were instituted on the offensive side, and they were to, with 2 strikes, shorten up, make sure they made contact, reach out there and waste pitches, poke balls away. I'm going to tell you, it's something that Milwaukee has done very well this year. They have good players, but they have good players that are very coachable. They have good players who are passing the baton to the next guy. Everyone's bought in. William Contreras, Christian Yelich, everybody. The stars, the new guys, the rookies, the veterans, the guys who came into the season not thinking they were going to have a chance and kind of do. So that's a great philosophy. And you can win a decent amount of games with that if you play it properly. If everybody buys in, you're going to score a lot more runs than you would if you were just trying to hit a tater every once in a while. You got to just embrace what you are. That doesn't mean like that. I mean, 1 through 9, they all have to, like, with 2 strikes, just go up there and basically try to check swing a ball into left field or something. You're going to have guys that, yeah, you want them swinging for the fences a lot more often. You know, that O'Neal Cruz having a lot of strikeouts, I don't think is the end of the world. But O'Neal Cruz having a lot of strikeouts and not in turn having a ton of home runs is a problem. You get what I mean? So either teach him to shorten up with 2 strikes and cut down on the strikeouts by a quarter if you can. What he does offensively might be acceptable if he would just cut down on strikeouts by a quarter. His average would go up, his on-base percentage would go up, everything would look better if he could just avoid striking out as often as he does. He's not going to be a double play candidate, so contact matters for him. He can run out things on the infield. You know, like, there's a lot of benefit to teaching a guy that has that kind of speed how to use it. The thing is, that doesn't excite O'Neal Cruz. O'Neal Cruz wants to hit that towering home run, know it's going 475 feet, lean back and catch his hat because he swung too damn hard, and then trot around the bases with a big grin on his face. If O'Neal Cruz would embrace shortening up with 2 strikes, slapping balls to left field, and doing damage on the base paths, drawing walks, doing damage on the base paths, uncorking hellacious swings with no strikes and 1 strike, and just tried to cut down on Ks a little, O'Neal Cruz would be a hell of a better player than he'll ever be playing the way he does right now. And it goes across the board. Brian Reynolds has no excuse to be striking out as much as he does. That's not his role. I don't need him to hit 5 or 6 more home runs badly enough to watch him strike out that many times. That's got to change. That's two guys that both need to drastically cut down on the number of strikeouts that they had this year. And the best way to do it is to change the approach with 2 strikes. Again, I don't expect Matt Haig to rewrite 15 years of programming. I don't think any coach can do that. But I do think that you can instill a disciplined approach with 2 strikes into guys that obviously are not going to get you there with power. There is no scenario in which the Pittsburgh Pirates are going to have enough offensive punch to be in the top 15 of home runs next year. You could sign Kyle Schwarber and still be maybe 15th. You get what I mean? It's wishful thinking. I'd much rather see them change their philosophy and try to make, I don't know, chicken salad out of chicken scratch. That seems to be the philosophy of the team. So why be so stubborn on something so obvious that every fan that goes and watches this team wonders why they can't just adjust? The strikeouts were ridiculous and embarrassing, and something that a team that doesn't hit enough home runs to even register can afford to do. This team's got to be better. Let's take a quick break. When we come back, let's talk about the playoffs. It's been interesting, some interesting stuff, and I think we might have a nightmare scenario taking shape for MLB. That should be fun. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. FanDuel, it makes sports interesting. I just love watching the NFL and putting all kinds of silly prop bets all over the place. In fact, I just won money the other day when Trevor Lawrence got tripped up in the backfield and somehow stumbled for a touchdown. And it was like the most ridiculous way to win ever. I took a lot of pleasure in it anyway. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Make sure you smash that subscribe button and hit a like and drop me some more comments. I've really enjoyed reading those. This is the last hotel on my cycle here. I have been traveling for work for the best part of the last half month. So pretty tired. Can't wait to get home. And let's check in on the playoffs. There's been a lot of action while I've been traveling around and not paying as much attention as I'd like to. The Blue Jays have knocked the Yankees out. and they did it in only 4 games, and it was very convincing. I mean, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. was an absolute monster. He went 9 for 17 with 3 homers and 9 RBI in this series. Aaron Judge, he did his part. He hit 600, had a home run, 2 doubles, but the rest of the Yankees lineup hit just 203. Good Lord. The Dodgers knocked off the Phillies, or should I say the Phillies, with a walk-off error by reliever Ryan Kerkering. Oh, my goodness. In the 11th inning, it was a pitcher's duel the whole way. Tyler Glasnow and Christopher Sanchez started with 6 scoreless innings each. Kyle Schwarber hit 2 homers in Game 3 to keep Philly alive, but the Dodgers bullpen and Roki Sasaki shut the door. Yep, the Phillies are out. The Brewers and Cubs are tied at 2 games apiece. That means there's going to be a decisive game 5 this weekend. That's going to be exciting. And then Quinn Priester had that terrible outing. But aside from that, I honestly, the weirdest thing I think has been the Cubs scoring early and trying like hell to hold on to their leads. They actually really blew it out though in game 4. They kind of took this one way good. Lots of home run action in that one. Tigers and Mariners also tied it 2 apiece. That's going to be interesting. Tarek Skubal going for the Tigers. Boy, that's 2 teams that I think most of the country can probably get behind wanting to see advance. The Tigers have kind of been a feel-good story most of the season. And the Mariners, they've never won one. It'd be real cool to see them get there. And I think a lot of people are really enthralled with the Cal Raleigh story. He's probably, aside from the National League and the Dodgers, he's probably the biggest offensive star left in the entire playoffs, isn't he? I mean, he's up there at least as far as performance goes this year, I'd say. The playoffs have been a lot of fun, man. I've been digging it. There's been a lot of drama. I'm surprised by some of the mistakes. I talked a little bit in one of my daily thoughts the other day about how the pitchers not being as featured, like the starting pitchers, the legendary matchups that you used to get. Like we had like Red Sox and Yankees, and like there was some great pitching performances in that one. There really were. But man, it was like, where's like the headliner? Where's like the Max Scherzer versus, Kurt Schilling, where is that? Where are those big time aces just going head to head for 7, 8 innings sometimes? Like this game, with the Tigers, or not the Tigers, I'm sorry. This game with the Phillies and Dodgers with Tyler Glasnow and Christopher Sanchez, where they both went 6 scoreless, that really stood out to me. It was like, that was nice to see. I'd like to see a little bit more of that. You know what I mean? Like, there's 2 big time arms that are supposed to be good, but Tyler Glasnow's come out of the bullpen a couple times this year, or in this postseason. I guess what I'm saying is I miss the marquee pitcher matchups. I can't get past it. It's troubling to me. Like the Pirates are setting up a situation where, like, if they were to ever make the playoffs, you've got, I think, a couple guys who are probably going to be in that marquee position. You would think that Paul Skeens would be a traditional starter in a playoff game. You would think Mitch Keller would be a traditional starter in a playoff game. But then I look at a lot of these teams that are in the playoffs, and I would think the same thing about them. They have those kind of rotations. There's a lot of traditional stars. Problem is, like, the season is so long and pitchers are being managed in such a way that they don't have much left to give by the time they get here. Like, by the time you get to the playoffs, I don't think we're seeing the best versions of these teams. I think sometimes these teams look better, in August. I feel like a lot of them peak and their pitchers are starting to max out or at least get close to it, right? And we're not asking them to stretch anymore. So it feels like it's going to be a perpetual problem. Like, think about how long it's going to take them to let Paul Skeens get to the innings marks that he wants, if they ever do. Next year, I think you could be looking at like a super successful Paul Skeens season, 220, maybe. I know he'd like 240. But 240, I think he would have to have 8 or 9 innings just about every outing, the way that they throw him, and how they like to sneak in those extra days of rest here and there and kind of push him back and see if they can mess around with him. Point is, by the time you get to the playoffs, these guys, especially if you're a Pirates pitcher, who on their team has any experience pitching beyond the regular season? And I've heard like, well, sometimes it takes a couple years for teams to learn how to win in the playoffs, like so that's just something you're gonna have to deal with. Well, when you're talking about a team like the Pirates or the Milwaukee Brewers or whatever, when you finally get that window cracked open, now you're telling me now I have another hurdle I've got to jump over. Now I have to have a little bit of playoff experience, meaning I have to get my butt kicked so that I can rebound and come back next year and hopefully have all these guys stay healthy again and hopefully all the stars align again. And then that little bit of experience will help kick them over the edge. Baseball's so freaking hard. It is so hard to build these teams. You just think about every decision that gets made in baseball, for the most part, there is a long-term repercussion for it. And you may not see the fruit from seeds you plant for sometimes 3 or 4 years. And you've got to trust that you did the right thing for those 3 or 4 years. And then you've got to trust for another couple years after it that there's still an adjustment period, even if you did the right things. Sometimes you can invest 5 or 6 years in a guy before you even know it. It's a hard game to figure, but something's got to give on these playoffs, man. Major League Baseball is going to have a meltdown if the World Series is the Tigers or the Mariners, right? I mean, like, or the Blue Jays. Think about those 3 teams, right? None of those are big, major markets. The Dodgers are Major League Baseball's last hope at that big national draw, at least as far as the way they think about baseball. Now, those of us who are proponent of the cap, well, you know what? We owe Major League Baseball watching some of these series, right? If the World Series winds up being something like small market Milwaukee versus small market Seattle, we kind of owe Major League Baseball watching that, because the kind of parity we're looking for, well, it should tell you that we're completely cool with that scenario taking place. We think that is an awesome World Series. That's something that all of America should want to see. Just like we say in the NFL, you want to see Green Bay in the Super Bowl and Detroit, and well, that has to stand up here with Major League Baseball too. And if you don't watch it, all you're doing is proving their point that the coastal cities, the big cities, the New Yorks and LAs and everything that gets flown over doesn't matter. You're proving their point. So if their ratings suck balls and they have like a matchup like that, I think they have an excuse for why things remain so skewed towards the gigantic markets, because the other ones don't draw. Now, maybe if a full cap system comes in, you would see more of that. But bluntly, I haven't seen that in hockey. I think hockey is still very, this is my team and I don't care about any other team. And if I'm going to watch the NHL finals, it's probably going to be something amazing. Like it's going to have to be a generational players involved, or it's going to have to be a big city. Hockey just had this happen last year with the Florida Panthers and the Edmonton Oilers. You couldn't ask for a worse scenario as far as viewing goes. Connor McDavid's a draw, sure, but those markets aren't. Those are awful markets, and you can't get further away on the map either. It just didn't make a lot of sense, right? Not always going to get a great matchup, and I think that's what we're barreling towards here in the World Series. I'm not pulling for LA. I know a lot of you think that that'll prompt a cap faster, but I think a lot of that has already kind of gotten out of the barn, and it's real hard to put it back. When we come back, I promised you guys I was going to read some fan trade ideas based on Wednesday's episode, and I'm going to do that today. Good stuff, everybody. Guys, you've probably heard of Viagra, Cialis. Maybe you've even tried them. But if you're looking for something beyond the usual pill, it's time to meet Rugiet Go Long. That's exactly where Rugiet's Go Long comes in. It isn't just another ED pill, it's a total game changer for confidence. The effects can last up to 36 hours. That's confidence all day, all night, and even into the next day. Ready to level up your confidence in the bedroom? Head to rugiet.com and use promo code LOCKEDONMLB for 15% off your first order. That's rugiet.com, Rugiet. Promo code LOCKEDONMLB. Make sure to use our code so they know we sent you. Hey, welcome back to Locked On Pirates. Let's read some of your comments from Wednesday's episode on arbitration estimates and potential trade targets. I really enjoyed some of these. So first, thank you guys for putting so much work into them. Very, very cool. You definitely took your time and thought them out. Exactly what I hoped you'd do, honestly. Exactly what I expected you to do. You guys are the best after all, especially you everydayers. And everydayers are the ones that love to write me novels like this, and I love it. So William wrote, I tried to go the route of filling what I believe are needs for the Pirates while also tracking teams that could use pitching, which the Pirates seemingly have. His targets are Adley Rutschman. Orioles have Basalo under contract. Rutschman could bring back a good pitcher. Bryson Stott. Phillies may look to clear payroll to re-sign Schwarber. Unlikely. And Jarren Duran. Red Sox have 4 outfielders. Duran carries the most value outside of Roman Anthony. I don't know if I agree with that last statement there about Duran, but I definitely think he's a target. I don't think he carries the most value. I think Abreu probably does. Rafaela is probably my favorite out of all of them. So, yeah, I would disagree with you on that, but I certainly wouldn't kick Jarren Duran out of bed for eating cookies or crackers. So I'll take it. Rich wrote, my 3 targets are Adolis Garcia, Brandon Marsh, and Alec Boehm. Garcia might be the easiest to get and would provide a solid power bat and great defense. Marsh and Boehm would be tougher, but good additions. Yeah, Rich. I mean, Adolis Garcia, I kind of called out at the trade deadline last year. I would have been interested in seeing if the Rangers would have been willing to make a swap there. I guess I'm still interested even in his last year, although he did have a down year. He does have the power potential. As a right-handed bat, I wonder how much, but this team needs it pretty bad, and I think you could probably count on him for 15 to 20 without thinking too much, and he's certainly going to play good defense. He's very much better than Tommy Pham, and I think he's better than most of what you could sign on the open market if you wanted to. Brandon Marsh, yeah. Dedicated left-handed bat. Not really somebody that you want facing lefties. Philly has decided that a long time ago. I do like him. I think of him like a Charlie Blackmon that can't hit left-handed pitching. And maybe it's the long, greasy hair and beard, but I don't hate Brandon Marsh. I think he's interesting. I'm not sure that he solves a problem, if only because he would play center field, then you'd have to move Cruz. And while I do think Marsh plays pretty good defense out there, again, you can't have him face left-handed pitching hardly at all. So you would have to have another solution to play center field. And your backup really on the roster would probably be Cruz, who's a left-hander. And then if you don't get anything else, your other backup is probably Jack Sawinski, another left-hander, unless you keep Alexander Canario. So I do have some questions about getting a left-handed center fielder, but I don't hate that idea at all, Rich. Alec Boehm, I suggested just the other day. I think that's a good one. I think the Phillies would probably look to move on from him. And it's not a huge commitment. It's a solid answer at third base. I know his glove is not as good as what we've become accustomed to here, but I do think they need the offense bad enough that might be a worthy addition, even if he winds up being a bench role, or maybe you use him as a DH here and there. That wouldn't be the worst idea in the world, and then you could just play the superior glove at third base. But the team needs to add offense, and just having him as part of the party is probably worth it. And then David wrote, for outfielders, Blade, Nootbaar, Sheets, Moniak, Tauchman, Lowe, and then infielders, Volpe. Yeah, boy, I really don't think the Yankees are going to cut loose Volpe. I don't. I'm not sure they can do much better at shortstop based on what's available. India, boy, I want nothing to do with India, but you're right to put him there. He belongs in this category. Estrada, yeah, I'm out on that too. Alec Boehm, again, yes, I agree. Luis Garcia, okay. Brandon Donovan, Nolan Gorman, both interesting players. Would love to have both of them. So don't want to make a trade with the Cardinals with any of this big pitching. Man, I don't want to help them pull themselves out of the nosedive they're in. I guess I would if I had to. And then you got Ramon Urias. I like that list. That's all solid possibilities. Some real great names there. I love the idea of targeting teams with pitching needs. That's a smart angle. Rushman is a dream, but probably not realistic. Duran and Marsh are intriguing, especially with the Pirates' need for outfield depth. Boehm's name keeps popping up. Maybe there's something there. Keep the ideas coming. We'll keep digging into these as the offseason approaches. That's it for today. I'll be back on Monday with more Pirates talk, and we'll have playoff updates. We'll know the ALCS and NLCS matchups by then, and maybe we'll have a few more trade ideas. Who knows? Thanks to William, Rich, and David for their comments. Keep them coming. We're serious about Pirates baseball because somebody has to be. Let's go Bucks.